play it any louder, then it's getting shut down.
My name is Waffles, and I'm a government whistleblower turned political commentator, and this is the last 24 hours in the news. Today is October 20th, 2025. It is 10:11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I missed the last couple of days. I've been chasing feral animals outside of my house. So I am going to catch up on some of that. I've been keeping a log that will be covered at the end of this segment. Here are the top U.S. news highlights for the past 24 hours. FEMA conditionality. Judge says administration violated prior order. A federal judge recently found the administration again tied FEMA grant funding to state cooperation with immigration enforcement, ruling that the government breached a prior court order. That decision protects states' immediate access to disaster aid and creates legal friction around future conditionality. Congressional oversight and subpoenas heating up. House committees continue to press for testimony and documents from senior officials tied to recent law enforcement and prosecutorial activity. Congressional oversight remains a fast-moving source of legal theater and document fights, ongoing coverage across outlets. Domestic military guard mobilization fights continue. The administration has sought emergency clearance to deploy National Guard forces in some jurisdictions. Chicago area appeal to the Supreme Court was reported on October 20th. Today, states and cities are filing briefs opposing federal deployments, and courts remain an active battleground. Separately, appeals court activity has produced conflicting rulings on Portland deployments. Expect more filings and rapid judicial rulings in the next 24 to 72 hours. Offshore kinetic activity with domestic political fallout. Recent U.S. strikes on vessels near Venezuela continue to draw domestic legal and diplomatic scrutiny. Rights groups and lawmakers are demanding legal justifications and memos describing authority and oversight. White House freezes $11 billion in infrastructure obligations amid the shutdown. The administration announced another freeze of a roughly $11 billion in Army Corps and other projects, largely in Democratic-run states. These freezes threaten near-term flood control, transit, and local infrastructure projects, with direct consequences for jobs, mitigation projects, and community resilience.
This is a message to the government. Since no one else is brave enough to bring it up, I guess I'll bring it to light. Our infrastructure is crumbling beneath our feet. We've got one of the biggest problems you've ever seen. And I'm talking about something very important that affects all of us. Pan down. Potholes! They're everywhere! Government, start fixing these! I'm telling you right now, I'm breaking out rims left and right. Let me take you on a tour with my brother over here of all the hot spots that are crumbling beneath our feet. Potholes! Fix them!
Where is all this money going that they're, one, taking from our programs? And second of all, taking from businesses and consumers via the tariffs? I would really like to know where this money's going. Program rescissions and grant cancellations continue to spark litigation. Nearly 24 states and multiple counties have filed suits challenging the cancellation of a major Solar for All clean energy grant program. These disputes could delay or reverse funding that serves low-income households. Projects permitting and federal services risk from shutdown and freezes. Infrastructure freeze plus agency staffing cuts and furloughs are delaying permits, causing public works contracts and increasing uncertainty for contractors and households that depend on scheduled projects. The judiciary has also stated furloughs as its non-appropriate balances ran out. They're just dismantling the entire system of governance. That's what I feel like I'm seeing. It's just like, is there anything that has not been touched yet that is not causing hardship on the nation? All of this is making instability and making it hard for people to function, literally everyone. And there's going to be incredibly severe consequences for that. It needs to be stopped. It's a national security risk. Where the hell is our money going? Trade and tariff rhetoric continues to add cost risk. Ongoing tariff rhetoric, export control measures, and retaliatory steps by trading partners, including targeted shipping port measures, are raising freight and input cost uncertainty that will feed into consumers' goods and prices and agricultural markets. Multiple trade reporters have documented these developments over the last 48 hours. I'm personally not okay with Trump dipping in and obtaining extra taxes off of people through the tariffs when the only thing he's spending our money on that we're even aware of is military and weapons, while everything else is falling apart. CDC staffing upheaval remains a near-term vulnerability. Recent large layoff notice rounds at the CDC. Hundreds of termination notices issued, then partially rescinded, have left the agency short-handed, causing a public health safety risk. Diplomatic strain from military actions and trade measures. The U.S. naval and strike operations near Venezuela have prompted formal protests at the UN and bipartisan demand for briefings. At the same time, aggressive trade posture, tariffs, and controls is prompting retaliatory measures from trading partners and complicating multilateral diplomacy. High-profile lawsuits and state coalitions. Nearly 24 states have pressed suit over the Solar for All cancellations. We've been covering that for a while now. Court blocks appeals on domestic deployments. States and municipalities are pressing appeals and seeking Supreme Court intervention to keep prior restraining orders in place and limit federal guard deployments. The legal fight over domestic troop use is one of the speediest and most consequential court tracks right now. Operational risk is front row. Infrastructure freezes plus program rescissions plus shutdown create immediate service and delivery shortfalls. He's gridlocking our entire freaking system of governance and creating chaos. And we really need to be wondering why they're doing this and taking it seriously. And anybody who is able to hold this administration accountable on these things needs to do so. We're all like gonna starve and descend into some horrible depression and be living outside, and then I'm pretty sure bombs are just going to drop on us, because from what I'm seeing, this just looks like what a foreign adversary would do. The systematic dismantling of the entire system of governance and making it so that nobody can live and nobody can function. Anybody else frustrated about not being able to go about your day-to-day life without dealing with more bullshit from the jackasses in office? National security matters, and so does national stability. Stability is an issue, and it does matter. I'm so pissed off at all of this shit. I'm tired of this shit. Domestic militarization fights will stay lit. The administration's attempts to deploy guard forces to cities will continue to be litigated. Watch Supreme Court filings and appeals court orders for immediate news. CDC staffing uncertainty raises the prospects that a new outbreak or event would face degraded federal surge capacity. The stock markets today closed with the S&P 500 up 1.03% at $671.31. The Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF SPDR ended at $467.022, up 1.14%. Invesco QQQ Trust Series 1 up 1.26%, $611.54 at close. Here are the top economic news highlights for the past 24 hours. Global economies estimate that more than $35 billion in costs due to U.S. tariffs. Where is that money going? $35 billion, where is it going? Global companies estimate more than $35 billion in costs due to U.S. tariffs. October 20th, Reuters analysis found that firms facing U.S. tariffs increased significantly under current policy. Expect combined costs of $21 billion to $22.9 billion in 2025 and nearly $15 billion in 2026. Although the figure has risen, many companies say the outlook is stabilizing. Oil prices fall to a 5-month low amid supply surplus fears and U.S.-China trade tensions. Brent crude settled at $61.01 a barrel and WTI at $57.52 a barrel, reflecting concerns over a looming supply glut and weaker energy demand tied to renewed friction between the U.S. and China. U.S. Trade Representative signals firm response to China's targeting of critical industrial sectors. Jameson Greer announced Washington will respond appropriately to China's actions in key sectors, e.g. shipbuilding, rare earths, though no specific measures were outlined yet. Yeah, that's what happens when you go and start shit with your trade partners for no fucking reason. If they're fucking with shit like rare earths and shipbuilding, I guess you should have thought about that before starting a trade war. Business lobby urges removal of export curbs rule hearing. U.S. companies, October 20th. The National Foreign Trade Council, NFTC, criticized a Commerce Department rule, the affiliates rule, that restricts exports of subsidiaries of sanctioned foreign firms, arguing it is harming U.S. exporters and risking supply chain exclusion. U.S. proposes trade actions against Nicaragua over labor rights concerns. The U.S. government announced plans to suspend benefits under the CAFTA trade pact for Nicaragua, citing violations of labor and human rights standards and potential harm to U.S. commerce. Shutdown signaling. The White House advisor says U.S. government shutdown might end this week. Today is October 20th. Economic advisor Kevin Hassett said the 20-day shutdown may conclude this week, indicating mounting pressure to resolve the funding impasse and restore disrupted economic data flows and services. And remember, kids, the stock market is not the economy. Just because the S&P 500 or Dow Jones might be performing does not mean that wages are growing, jobs are secure, inflation is under control, or that people are thriving. And here is the upcoming hazardous weather outlook for the next few days. Northeast and mid-Atlantic current conditions. A coastal low pressure system continues to move offshore, bringing lingering rain and gusty winds to New England and parts of the mid-Atlantic. Gusts up to 45 to 50 miles an hour may persist along coastal New England through Tuesday morning, possibly leading to downed limbs and localized outages. Minor tidal flooding is possible at high tide. Conditions improve midweek, cooler and drier air flows behind the front. No major hazardous weather expected after Tuesday evening. Southeast current conditions. A weak front extending across Georgia and the Carolinas is bringing intermittent showers and isolated thunderstorms. Brief heavy rainfall and localized flooding in poor drainage areas. Another front approaches from the west by Thursday with potential for scattered strong storms and gusty winds across Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida Panhandle. Midwest and Great Lakes current conditions. A cold front is moving east across the Central Plains into the Midwest, triggering clusters of showers and isolated thunderstorms. A marginal risk of severe weather, hail, and wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour has been noted for portions of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. Cooler, stable air midweek. However, frost or light freeze potential could develop in northern Minnesota and Wisconsin by Thursday morning. Central and southern plains current conditions. Dry and breezy conditions following a frontal passage. Hazards, elevated fire weather risk across Texas, Oklahoma, and eastern New Mexico due to low humidity and gusty northwest winds. Fire weather conditions persist into Wednesday before moderating late week as winds decrease. Southwest and Intermountain West current conditions. Dry and stable under a broad ridge of high pressure. Hazards, localized wildfire danger due to continued dry fuels and low humidity in parts of Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. Winds increase slightly by midweek, sustaining fire weather concerns through Thursday. No precipitation expected. Pacific Northwest, current conditions. A weak Pacific system is bringing light rain to western Washington and Oregon. No major hazards, localized slick roads on mountain passes. Another front arrives on Wednesday, increasing precipitation and wind along the coast. Minor flooding possible in small streams by late Thursday. Rocky Mountains and Northern Plains, current conditions, cooler air settling in after a frontal passage. Light snow accumulation possible at higher elevations in Montana and Wyoming. Temperatures remain below average. Additional light snow possible midweek in mountain zones. And here are the top international news highlights for the past 24 hours. Global firms face over $35 billion in U.S. tariffs, but outlook easing. A Reuters analysis found that companies have flagged more than $35 billion in costs from the tariffs. Where is that money going? Where is that money going? It's not going to our public resources. It's not keeping people fed. It's not helping any of our federal agencies investigate violations of the law. Where is that money going? $35 billion in costs to businesses heading into quarter 3 earnings, though many are now revising their lower worst case estimates as some trade deals ease pressure. U.S.-China relations. Trump expects a trade deal, downplays Taiwan risk. President Donald Trump says he expects a fair trade deal with China's Xi Jinping and asserted China has no intention of invading Taiwan. Remarks made ahead of planned talks in South Korea. Yeah, and then you're bitching because they are sanctioning rare earths after you just made some ridiculous show out of trying to sanction the fuck out of everything with your stupid tariffs. I'm tired of this crap. I want to live my life and be left the fuck alone and be able to afford my fucking food and go to work without being harassed and just make my fucking paycheck, come home and feel comfortable enough to watch a fucking movie. U.S. envoys push to salvage Gaza truce as violence flares. The U.S. dispatched envoys to Israel and Egypt to reinforce a fragile ceasefire between Hamas and Israel after a flare-up of violence threatened to derail the accord. President Trump warned Hamas of possible eradication if they violate the truce. What does eradication mean? Do you mean genocide? Is that what you mean by eradication? Is the United States going to start attacking Palestine now and just kill a bunch of innocent civilians? Because that's just what I assume when I see that. Iran rejects U.S. offer of talks, denies nuclear capabilities were destroyed. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei dismissed President Trump's claim that the U.S. destroyed Iran's nuclear industry and rejected renewed negotiations, calling them coercive. Yeah, that's because they packed all their shit and moved because they had an advance notice. The United States dropped bombs. They didn't destroy shit as far as nuclear assets goes. Anybody who's been paying attention, this is something that we already know. This happened months ago. So, yeah, of course, he's laughing at the dumbass motherfucker, Donald Trump, lying through his fucking teeth in front of the whole world. Australia and U.S. sign critical minerals deal amid China's supply chain challenge. U.S. and Australia struck an agreement investing in rare earths, critical minerals, aimed at countering China's dominance in the sector. The deal includes joint investment and U.S. backing of Australia's submarine purchase under the AUKUS Pact, AUKUS. Hungary's foreign minister to visit Washington ahead of Putin-Trump meeting. Hungarian foreign minister Peter, oh my god, I don't know if I'm going to say it right. Szijjártó? Peter Szijjártó. It's Szijjártó. Let's see if hold up.
Szijjártó announced.
Okay. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó announced he will visit Washington on Tuesday ahead of a possible future meeting between Trump and Putin, Trump's boss. In my opinion, that's what it looks like. It looks like Trump is working for the Russians and destroying America and stealing all of our money, and I'm just wondering if he's funneling it over to Russia. What the fuck is going on? They're going to be meeting up to discuss destroying America, I assume, in Budapest. They claim they're talking about the Ukraine war. That's the end of today's news. Alright, so I'm just going over my notes to look for anything that we may have missed in the last 2 days while I've been searching for animals. The last few days, I don't even know how long it's been actually. Venezuela has filed complaints with the UN against the United States for its strikes near Venezuela. Afghanistan and Pakistan agreed to immediate ceasefire. Negotiations held in Doha, mediated by Qatar and Turkey, resulted in both countries pledging to halt hostile actions along the border after deadly clashes. The Pakistan-Afghanistan border is highly volatile, with spillover implications for regional security, displaced civilians, and militant groups. A ceasefire could ease humanitarian pressure and open space for diplomacy. The U.S. has announced it will return to survivors of a strike on a semi-submersible vessel suspected of carrying fentanyl and narcotics to Ecuador and Colombia for persecution. Pretty much what it means is if the United States is returning those people are probably not drug trafficking, and they're innocent civilians of Venezuela, most likely. And that would be why the United States would return them. So, while this is not a clear admission of guilt of murdering civilians in the Caribbean, that's essentially what this signifies. This action represents a shift in U.S. strategy, treating drug trafficking as a sort of armed conflict involving lethal military force rather than pure law enforcement. It raises legal and diplomatic questions, especially involving Venezuelan waters and sanctions. International reactions, especially from Latin American states, on how the survivors' cases proceed legally, and whether this becomes a precedent for future maritime operations, will be something to watch in regards to that. But I need to point that out, and need to point that out clearly, that him returning those people is very close to an admission of guilt, in my opinion. The U.S. military's recent operations in the Caribbean and the return of survivors are part of a broader campaign that the administration labels one against narco-terrorists. Legal experts question the classification and use of military force in what has traditionally been law enforcement domain. Yeah, no, you don't just shoot people that you don't even know who the hell they are. And if they were not regular civilians, they would not be getting returned. They would be going through legal proceedings, most likely here in the United States. Lawmakers are pressing the White House for clarity on how it will handle back pay for the federal employees that have been furloughed during the ongoing shutdown. Democrats cite existing law and allege the Office of Management and Budget is questioning workers' rights to back pay. Human rights organizations are demanding a legal memo from the administration explaining that U.S. government's legal basis for recent deadly maritime operations near Venezuela, the random people that Trump has been ordering to be shot in boats, arguing that deployment of federal forces without clear oversight raises civil rights concerns. This is the American Civil Liberties Union. I'm going to open it up real quick. The Center for Constitutional Rights and the American Civil Liberties Union filed a FOIA request seeking the Office of Legal Counsel's guidance and other related documents regarding President Trump's lethal strikes on alleged drug smugglers in the Caribbean. Pam Bondi was testifying last week before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Attorney General Pam Bondi refused to confirm the existence or non-existence of such guidance. The Army's General Counsel acknowledged the existence of this opinion. The ACLU has a statement in here from Bahar Azmi, legal director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. In a constitutional system, no president can arbitrarily choose to assassinate individuals from the sky based on his whim or say-so. The Trump administration is taking its indiscriminate pattern of lawlessness to a lethal level. The public understanding of any rationale supporting such unprecedented and shocking conduct is essential for transparency and accountability. So they're just trying to get the memo, they're trying to get the statement as to how and why this is being conducted. Why is it happening? There's been a FOIA request submitted by the ACLU. Thousands of civilians participated in the No Kings protests across the country. I have never seen crowds so huge in my entire life. These have got to be historic protests. I mean, our population is more than it ever has been through American history ever. And I believe we saw a pretty significant portion of the population out this weekend. From what I saw, all the footage, there was a lot of aerial views from helicopters over these rallies, and I could not see the end of the crowd anywhere in a lot of these places with the view of a helicopter. This happened. This is the crowd in Chicago. That is a lot of freaking people, yo. Look it, everybody, it's you guys. Oh, there's the giant Constitution right there. Like, I cannot see the end of the crowd. They just keep coming. So that's in Chicago. Seattle. Yeah, no end in sight.
And Boston, we're giving you a live look outside at the
Boston. This all you guys. New York City, Times Square. San Diego. Reno, Nevada. Philadelphia. These guys. And these guys. Chicago. These guys. This. Protesters on San Francisco Beach made a human banner. Denver, Colorado. Los Angeles. These guys. Barcelona, Spain. Austin, Texas. Portland. I don't know if I already did Portland. There's Portland. Philadelphia. San Francisco. Madison, Wisconsin. I like this puppet. Augusta, Maine. London. Hey. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Washington, D.C. Pittsburgh. Dallas, Texas. Austin, Texas. Shout out to the hippo in New York.
I was inspired by the Portland frog.
They were out of frogs. I had a great sign. I wanted frogs, but nobody had frogs.
I tried to get a Portland frog outfit, and they were sold out until November. There was no way. This was the only one I was able to get.
I had to order them online. That was the only way. It was going to be frogs against fascist oligarchs. Popo, but it wouldn't work with a unicorn and a dinosaur.
Well, I'm Jen Pooh, and this is Sarah Eeyore. I forgot to put on pants.
I'm Antifa now, and I joined Antifa to show Donald Trump that we are going to overpower you. I'm a big girl now.
My
I can handle
God.
this. I can
You
handle
guys
this,
with
bro.
your
I got
costumes. Where did this come from? There's a stamp on there. It's from Mother Jones. Portland, Maine. And here we've got Froggy and Chewbacca getting down in Minneapolis. Boston. Center City, Philadelphia. Oh my God, somebody's wearing an inflatable baby Trump. Look at this fool. Hold up. There it is. Look. Americans came out in droves on Saturday to say no to stealing all of our money, making it so we can't afford to live, and flouting the rule of law, and other things, engaging in war crimes. Millions of Americans came out on Saturday to say fuck Trump, fuck this administration, fuck what they're doing, and fuck what they stand for. So the next time you have some MAGA show that might be in Russia in your comments trying to throw insults at you, just remember, we outnumber them, and Americans don't like MAGA. So we're looking at news for the 19th. Trump said that unless India ends its purchases of Russian oil, the U.S. will maintain massive tariffs on Indian goods, around 50%. India counters that no such promise has been made, while imports of Russian oil to India are projected to rise 20% in October. Gold went up again. The dollar is dropping. because of Trump's tariffs. A cargo plane crashed in Hong Kong. 2 airport staff killed in a rare, worst in decades incident. A Boeing 747 cargo plane landed at Hong Kong's international airport early on Monday and slid off the runway, colliding with a security vehicle, resulting in the deaths of 2 airport security staff. That would be last Monday. Oh, that's from today's news. I wonder why that's in here. Japan's Takaichi trade rebound as markets look to pro-stimulus leadership under new LDP deal. Japan's markets dumped after the ruling Liberal Democratic Party LDP struck a coalition deal with Japan Innovation Party, putting Sanae Takaichi in line to become the first female Japanese prime minister. Analysts say her tendency towards pro-stimulus and economic reform has lifted investor appetite while creating ripple effects across Asian equities and global markets. And that should be everything. That wraps it up for covering for the last couple of days of things that got missed. Of course, I'm not able to ever cover, absolutely everything. So this concludes our report for today. I'm going to get out of here. Y'all stay safe out there. I'll see you later.
So the Olympics is great. And Johnny, for the others, the World Cup, Johnny is the head of it. We had our top people, Wasserman. They all came in on the Olympics, and then I saw Johnny. And we got the World Cup, too. And, it's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president representing you there. I got both of them. I got the Olympics, and I got the World Cup. And I said, it's too bad. One was in 2026, and the other was in 2028. And I said, I won't be there. I won't be your president. But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So, Johnny, thank you for the World Cup. And everybody, thank you for the Olympics. We're going to have a great time.
Hey guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on my videos. And also, don't forget to check out my shop where you can get this awesome Real Patriots Punch Nazis t-shirt. America, fuck yeah! And if you go to the link tree in my bio on most platforms, it's got links to everything, all of my stuff. You can find my shop there. I'm on eBay. You can also get this cool Exterminate MAGA sticker, because MAGA's fucking cockroaches. And fuck MAGA. Abolish MAGA. Fuck you, MAGA.